Hey, it's Art from my new microphone. In today's video, I want to go through a few different techniques we can utilize to perfect the timing of our vocals within our mixes. Timing our vocals appropriately can make our mixes sound more professional. This is particularly true of background vocals and any doubles that we use on top of the lead vocal. And it's important to know how to perfect the timing of our vocals in our music production and mixing in order to get more professional results. So without further ado, let's help you step up your vocal production and hop into the digital audio workstation to look at a few of these techniques for perfecting the timing of our vocals. All right, here we are inside of Logic Pro. We will be working on Lukey's song Normal. This is from an album called Snaggletooth. I'll leave a link in the description box down below. And the first thing we need to ask ourselves when it comes to vocal timing is whether we actually want that in our music production or if the song warrants it. And so sometimes we want a looser sound for our vocals. Other times we want it more tight and more perfect, at least in the sense of timing and music production. So let's have a quick listen through this, not only to demo the track for us, but also to help us decide whether we want a more perfect timed vocal or if loosey-goosey is good enough.
All around us is the drug takers playing with the salt shakers, one is for all. Y'all thinking you're different, we're all the same. If I'm getting twisted, pull it, pass it. Just the other day I found my BlackBerry and it said when I plugged it in that I was stuck on a daisy. Habit I changed.
So let's start by muting the ad-libs down here. And in the case of this song, I think that a more loose vocal actually fits the style of the song. It's kind of a vamping funk style riff on the bass guitar that just repeats, and I think that the vocals could be loose. However, for the sake of this video, let's say that I decided I wanted a perfectly timed vocal for the song. And so the first strategy I have to share for you when getting perfect vocal timing in music production is to, as always, get it right at the source. And so if we can get a vocalist to perform their harmonies or their doubles exactly at the same time, then we don't have to go through and do any editing in post. This ties into the mantra, get it right at the source, which is always our best option when it comes to music production. And I think that Lukey did a great job timing things up. We can actually have a look here at the audio signals. You can see that there is the lead vocal right here, and then we have vocal 1 and 2, that's an octave above, and then vocal 3 and 4, that's an octave below the lead vocal. And if I stretch this out and maybe bring the mixer down, we can see that there is some timing discrepancies right here, which we will work on throughout this video. But for the most part, things are pretty tight. Again, things aren't perfect, but you can't expect perfection out of a vocalist when it comes to timing, or any musician for that matter, which is where editing comes into play. And so beyond getting it right at the source, my first strategy when it comes to editing at least is comping. And so if we were to consider these first two harmonies as being the octave above, these two going an octave below, we can, for example purposes in this video, imagine we are only working with a single harmony right here, an octave above, a single harmony right here working an octave below, and we can actually treat these two tracks as alternate takes, which we can comp together to help get a more perfectly timed take. And so this isn't actually what I did in this mix. Obviously, I have the octave up panned hard left, another octave up panned hard right, and then the octave below panned halfway left, and then panned halfway right in this track right here. But for the sake of example, let's mute these off and treat the mix as if we only have one harmony an octave above, one harmony an octave below. I can even center pan these, and we can work on comping. So comping is creating a composite track out of 2 or more takes. In this case, we have 1 take and 2 takes. And so what we can do is, again, reference this lead vocal right here and the timing of this lead vocal, and basically mix and match these 2 tracks so that it better fits the timing of the lead vocal right here. So let's bring things down so we can better see the lead vocal and where different words start and stop. And so again, things aren't absolutely perfect right here, but we can have a quick listen.
All around us is the drug takers playing.
And I'll actually solo for this example.
All around us is the drug takers.
So this one's definitely early, but you see that it's also early in this one. So there's not much we can do there in terms of comping. We may be able to comp this piece. So I'm just going to, in Logic Pro, hit Command T, that's the hotkey to cut, and just slide that up. And of course, we need to crossfade as always, anytime we are cutting and comping tracks.
All around us is the drug takers playing.
So that is a little bit better if I undo.
All around us is the drug takers.
So this one lags a little bit. Now by comping, I can push that forward effectively.
All around us is the drug takers playing.
And move on. And I'm not adjusting any of the timing. I'm just comping tracks together. Those are about the same. So it seems that the two harmonies are actually aligned better than the harmonies are aligned to the lead vocal in this case. What about right here?
With the soul shakers.
So let's take the from this one. And I'll actually take this as well and bring that up, of course. Go over here and crossfade.
Playing with the soul shakers, one is for all. Y'all thinking you're different.
So there's a little bit of discrepancies right here. And then right here, I think I can actually get something closer with this one.
Oh, y'all thinking you're different.
So I think that that is an improvement. And again, not adjusting any of the timing right here. I am just comping things together where they sit.
Define getting twisted.
These ones are both a little bit late. This one's a bit earlier. So not much difference right here at all.
Define getting twisted.
And then I could do the same thing for this vocal down here. So let's actually mute the first harmony so that, again, we are just focusing on the vocal lead and this second harmony right here, the octave low. Again, I have this one panned to the center. And what I can do is bring this up right underneath the lead vocal just so that I can see them a little bit better here.
All around us is the drug takers.
So these are both a little bit early. So what I could do is actually move both of them over just slightly. We'll have a listen to what this sounds like.
All around us is the drug takers playing with the soul shakers, one is for all. Y'all thinking you're different.
Now there's actually a bit of tuning issue right here.
Takers playing with the soul shakers, one is for.
And this isn't a video on tuning. I do have a video on tuning your vocals. I will leave a link to that in the description box down below. But I would like to address that in this video, even though we're supposed to be focusing on timing. Again, just comping, equal power crossfade.
All around us is the drug takers playing with the soul shakers, one is for all. Y'all thinking you're different.
And so again, there are some discrepancies here. Let's make these waveforms a bit bigger. This word might actually work a bit better. I think that you guys get the point here.
Y'all thinking you did.
That it is just simple comping. I could go through and do full words like this, or if I had more takes to work with, I could opt to choose larger sections, maybe a few words or maybe a full section is timed out perfectly in one take for this whole line, and then the timing is a little bit off in that take on this one, so I would want to comp from a separate take or an alternate take to better fit the timing of this. And comping and multing tracks like this can typically get us pretty close to our target track, in this case the lead vocal. However, they usually won't be absolutely perfect, so that brings us to our second option, which is cutting and nudging. So actually, before I got to cutting this last one when we were talking about comping, I actually moved both of these tracks a little bit later in the mix, and that's partly what I'm talking about here in the cutting and nudging technique. And so what we can do here is actually work on a single track or both tracks. I'll use a single track just for demonstration purposes. We can actually go in and cut different syllables, different words, so that they better align with what we're working with. So in this case, I can take this and maybe move it back a little bit. And the issue right here is that there was going to be a little bit of cutting out audio or doubling up audio. And so we do have to be very careful right here. I'll actually go up here, choose fade tool, so that I can just quickly hit command in Logic Pro and create a crossfade like that. Have a listen.
All around us is the drug taker.
And then right here, we're a little bit late, perhaps. A little bit early right here. And what I like to do is cut little chunks of audio at a time so that I'm not moving the entirety of the audio signal down here. This second take for the harmony. And just cut things up a little bit. If there's some dead space right here, I'll typically like to double that up rather than trying to double within a word, because doubling up during audio can often lead to artifacts that we don't necessarily want in the mix. Scrolling over, those look pretty tight. This one could be moved back a little bit, even though we took it from the other track there. This one, if I drag it back, we can crossfade right there. This one, it seems pretty good. And I'm just going through this quickly, Just to demonstrate, I would spend a little bit more time playing things back, but in this case, I'm just going through everything and just aligning it by eye. This one might benefit from a little bit of a push there. And then I can have a listen back here.
All around us is the drug takers playing with the salt shakers, want us for all. Y'all thinking you're different.
I did hear an issue at the very beginning here.
All around us is the drug.
And that is within a word, so that is a little bit tricky to deal with.
All around us is the drug.
That seems to be a bit better.
All around us is the drug takers.
And maybe move that back a little bit. Making sure that I keep my crossfades intact.
All around us is the drug takers. All around us is the drug takers playing with the salt shakers, want us for all. Y'all thinking you're different.
And then, just for demonstration purposes, I can go back and do that same thing with the first harmony. Alternatively, I could show it to you in this doubled harmony of the octave below, but I've already got this set up here. So let's go in. And you can see this is lined up pretty well. This one happens a little bit late, and this word right here goes a bit long compared to seemingly what is going on right here. So let's have a quick listen first.
All around us is the drug. All around us is the drug takers.
Let's start this maybe a little bit back. I will cut right here and move just this word. And crossfade, of course. Type equal power crossfade.
All around us is the drug takers playing with. Around us is the drug takers.
So this the is a little bit late and a little bit more pronounced than the lead vocal. And then this is a little bit early, so let's cut behind it, push it over. And I can just do a quick crossfade there by holding down Command.
All around us is the drug takers playing with the salt shakers, want us for all. Y'all.
Now the first part is pretty good. We can go down here to the second part and see that I can move this one like so. This can be moved back a little bit, but I don't want to alter this starting right here. We scroll over. This one is tough to say. Maybe I can move it back a little bit. This one I can certainly move a bit forward. And I'm just trying my best to align the starting of the words right here. They are both saying the same thing, and Lukey did a good job of getting the timing pretty much there. So there's not a whole lot of finessing I need to do, but if I do want perfect timing, I will need to do some editing here. All right, let's bring this back. And again, I am trying to crossfade on the in-betweens right here, as you can see. Let's actually drag that one back, crossfade all of these ones. And crossfading right here just helps us to avoid digital pops in the mix when an audio signal will be at a certain level and then immediately jump to another point that is a recipe for a digital pop, which we want to typically avoid in our mixes. So let's have a listen to what just a little bit of nudging does.
All around us is the drug takers playing with the salt shakers, want us for all. Y'all thinking you're different.
So that is pretty good. And let's double this just to compare and contrast. This was the original. I'll mute this one.
All around us is the drug takers playing with the salt shakers, want us for all. Y'all thinking you're different.
So there's a little bit of rushing and dragging there. And now here's the comped one.
All around us is the drug takers playing with the salt shakers, want us for all. Y'all thinking you're different.
So a little bit of an improvement there. So cutting and nudging is a great way to help ameliorate the timing of our vocals. Now, if we want to take things a step even further when it comes to timing our vocals, we can add time expansion and compression to the techniques that we've already discussed. And so as the name might suggest, time expansion and compression is taking an audio file. I'll take this one just as an example. And in the case of Logic Pro, I hold down Option and then I can go to either side and I can expand it by dragging it out. This will stretch the audio. This is going to sound like it's got some artifacts in it and it's been stretched because this is a rather obvious stretching. I stretched it out quite a bit.
And that's that river muse.
So that's obviously stretched. But if I just stretched it a little bit right here, You may not even notice that it's stretched.
And that's that river muse.
Likewise, we can do the same thing but compress it. That's what this might sound like.
And that's that river muse.
And then, of course, I can compress it far too much and it would really sound compressed.
And that's that river muse.
And so the time compression and expansion algorithms in modern digital audio workstations have come a long way, but it's still important that we use them as minimally as possible when it comes to timing our vocals, if at all. And so let's take a fresh vocal to demonstrate this on. I'll actually delete this vocal. We don't need to A-B that anymore. Let's take this last vocal harmony, the octave below, and work on this one. So we will now combine a little bit of cutting and nudging along with time compression and expansion. So here we go.
All around us is...
So right off the bat, that is a little bit late. So let's bring this over a little bit.
All around us is the drug.
And now let's go through and do the majority of our cutting and nudging. I'm just doing this rough. And then we'll get into a bit of time compression and expansion if need be. It's actually pretty good. And the more you do this, the more quickly you'll be able to do this. I did this a lot working in animation and television, where I'd be editing dialogue. So let's have a quick listen just without any crossfades quickly here.
All around us is the drug takers playing with the salt shakers, want us for all. Y'all thinking you're different.
So that's pretty close. Let's go back to the starting here and have a closer listen to each of these.
All around us is the...
So right here, I might actually want to compress this part. And this is a great way to avoid the doubling or cutting of audio if we are just cutting and nudging.
All around us is the... All around us is...
And you hear that there is a bit of artifacts right here.
All around us is the...
So we may not actually want to do that at the very beginning. Let's get rid of that crossfade here.
All around us is the...
Compress that, stretch this one out.
All around us is the...
So that first one's giving me some problems, so I'm just going to leave that one alone.
All around us is...
And I think it's important that I do this in real time to demonstrate, because you will run into instances where compressing or expanding a clip of audio is just going to sound really bad. It's not going to sound natural at all. And so we want to avoid that.
All around us is the drug.
Might actually be able to expand this a little bit.
Around us is the drug takers play. Around us is the drug takers.
This one has to be moved a bit early.
Around us is the drug takers. All around us is the drug takers playing.
And one other thing I should note here is that I'm leaving the lead vocal alone. The lead vocal is going to be up front in the mix, and the vocal harmonies are going to be tucked back and panned out. And so I can get a little bit more aggressive with the processing of the harmonies rather than the lead vocal. The lead vocal, again, is going to be drawing a lot of attention to itself. The background vocals, not as much. And so we can get away with being a little bit more aggressive, if you will, with our processing.
All around us is the drug takers playing with the salt shake.
This one right here, I can stretch out. And you saw there that sometimes I'll actually cut far beyond the audio so that I have a larger file to either compress or expand. In this case, I expanded it. And it may seem insignificant, but oftentimes having a larger file, a longer audio file to stretch or to compress will actually give us fewer issues, fewer artifacts in the mix.
Drug takers playing with the salt shakers, want us for all.
So that's good to me right there. I'll actually drag this one back and I will crossfade that once we're done.
And with the salt shakers, want us for all.
This one I can actually move back a little bit. And you see that this is tedious, but certainly we can improve the timing of our vocals like this.
With the salt shakers, want us for all, y'all.
This one, let's move over a little bit. Now this one I can stretch out a little bit, and maybe just to demonstrate, I'll bring this part out and then stretch it like so. Bring this back, just again to get a little bit of a longer file to stretch, and then I'll actually drag this unstretched one over a little bit.
Shakers want us for all, y'all.
Drag that out.
Shakers want us for all, y'all.
You can hear that digital pop there, actually. I will play that back.
Shakers want us for all, y'all.
And solo just the harmony.
Want us for all, y'all.
You hear that pop right there. So that is what I mentioned a while ago about having an audio signal that all of a sudden jumps. You can't really see it right here, but there is, in this section, a negative amplitude right here. You see that this flat line is 0 amplitude. So we go from negative amplitude up to positive amplitude. Maybe I can make that a bit more obvious there if you can see it. We go negative and then immediately jump to positive. So that is something that we want to avoid. We can do that with crossfades, which I will get to once we are done here.
Want us for all, y'all thinking you. Row, y'all thinking you.
And you hear another one right there.
Want us for all, y'all thinking you're different. Shakers want us for all, y'all thinking you're different.
I think that that's pretty on time. Let's select all of this, get some crossfades in.
Shakers want us for all, y'all thinking you're different.
And so with some time compression expansion along with some cutting and some nudging, I was able to get a vocal a little bit closer to the actual lead vocal in terms of timing. If again, I was to duplicate this track and just quickly A/B test, I'll bring this same audio file, the original right here. We can have a listen to that.
All around us is the drug takers playing with us all. Shakers want us for all, y'all thinking you're different.
And this is what we ended up with a little bit of nudging and stretching and compressing.
All around us is the drug takers playing with us all. Shakers want us for all, y'all thinking you're different.
So it's certainly possible. Again, it's a little bit tedious, but if you do want to tighten up the timing of your vocals, I would suggest starting with comping, cutting and nudging, and then time compression and expansion. And as I was saying earlier, I did this for years professionally, editing dialogue for film, television, animation, and the like, and I've also done it for music production, as you can see here. And so while this is a little bit tedious, you see that we can improve the timing of our vocals so that we can better align them to a reference track. In this case, I was aligning the harmonies to the lead vocal. And speaking of how tedious this is, I do have a final strategy for getting better timing in our vocals after the fact, once they've been recorded. And that is to invest a little bit of cash into SynchroArt's VocAlign. I have VocAlign Ultra, and this makes my job timing vocals so much easier, and I would highly recommend it to anybody who is producing vocals on a regular basis. So what I'm going to do here is actually bring the panning back to what it was originally. And what I'm going to do here is on each of these harmonies right here, you see I have them reordered in terms of their numbers. So Vox harms 1, 2, 3, and 4. On each of these, the first insert I'm going to utilize is the SynchroArts right here, VocAlign Ultra. So I'm going to open that up in mono. There is an ARA version. I'm not using that one because I'm not running Logic Pro in Rosetta. You have to make sure that your digital audio workstation is actually compatible with ARA, because I just got a new Mac Studio and it has the M2 Max chip rather than an Intel processor. I can't actually utilize ARA just yet. I'm hoping that that will change in the future, but ARA isn't going to be for everybody, and so I think it's better for me to just show it without the ARA mode for this demonstration anyway. And so what we can do is loop this section. So we have all of our edits here. We made this first part a little bit tighter, but not absolutely perfect. And now what makes this plugin so simple is that we have a guide track right here. So this is the track that contains the audio that we want to match to. Then we have a dub track. This track will contain the audio that will be modified to match the audio in the guide track. And so we can click right here on Capture Audio to effectively arm our track. This is similar to pitch correction software where we actually record stuff into the plugin. And right here we have the guide as the sidechain. And so what I want to do in the case of Logic is go up to this top right corner, click on sidechain. I'm going to go down to audio, and I'm going to find the lead vocal track. And so in the case of this mix, I'm going to go down to Vox Lead 26. If I go to my mixer, Vox Lead is right here. That has been what we've been referencing all of our timing to throughout this training. So again, it's this track right here. And I can go do that for each of these plugins right here, or in Logic, I can actually just hold down Option and copy this over. I will open each of these up just to show you what's going on. In Vox Harm 2, I'm going to hit Capture right there to arm it. You see the guide sidechain is set to Audio 26, which is the vocal lead. Same thing goes for Vox 3, the harmonies. Hit Capture, and Vox 4, hit capture, and now what we have to do is play audio through them. And so I'm just going to hit the spacebar to hit play.
All around us is the drug takers playing with the salt shakers, want us for all. Y'all thinking you're different.
You see that it's recording if it's flashing red.
I'm getting twisted. Just the other day I found my BlackBerry and it said when I plugged it in that I was stuck on a Dixie. I'm happy that I changed.
And because the tracks are pretty close in timing already, SynchroArt's vocal line will have an easier job actually time aligning the vocal. If things are way off, then we will have to do some finessing of the timing in order to get it to a point where we can actually feed it into vocal line and have vocal line do its job appropriately. But if we look at Vox Harms 1, for example, we can zoom in and we see our guide sidechain track right here. We can actually see the audio signal of it. We can see the audio of what's been captured. And then down here in the output, we actually have the yellow is the audio that's been changed. And then this blue line is just the outline of what the original guide track was. And so you can see that some things were changed a little bit. For example, this word right here was shortened. You can see if I zoom in even more, scroll over, that this word right here was shortened a little bit. This one was made a little bit sharper at the end. And we can just go through and see the little differences that vocal line did. You see that this one was starting a little bit early in the dub, so we pushed it a little bit back, or vocal line pushed it a little bit back. And just small changes throughout in order to better align the dub track or the track that's actually on this track within the mixer, Vox Harms 1, to the guide track, which again is the vocal lead right here. And so over here, we do have some settings, some controls. We can go basic or advanced. Match timing, we can make things tight as they are now, or we can make them looser, up to 200 milliseconds. And you can see here that the actual differences aren't as much. You can see that we are much closer to the original dub track than we are to the guide track. And then if I was to tighten things up, let's go all the way back to 0 milliseconds. Vocal line is very much altering the dub track to try to fit the sidechain right here. We have different alignment rules, normal flexibility, high flexibility, and then maximum compression, maximum expansion. That is what I was talking about earlier when I was talking about time compression and expansion. I typically just leave it on normal flexibility. And then we also have some match pitch right here, so we can use Vocal Line Ultra as a pitch correction software as well. I prefer Melodyne personally. I have a video going into detail about how to use Melodyne. I'll leave a link to that in the description box down below. But that's just to show you that there are some advanced features. In this video, I'm just talking about the timing, and so we'll focus primarily on that. And so we can alter the tightness. Again, I'll typically go all the way tight, and then Vocal Line does pretty much all the work for us. So if we have a listen back right here, this is with Vocal Line on each of the harmonies.
All around us is the drug takers playing with the salt shakers, want us for all. Y'all thinking you're different. Define getting twisted.
And if I go to the second half, which we haven't touched with any of our manual editing, and I just exit out of these, you can see that it did it for each of these harmonies right here as I exit out. Maybe I'll leave Vox 3 up just to show you. If we listen back through this section right here, I can A/B with Vocal Line on or off. So without it on, this is what it sounds like.
Just the other day I found my BlackBerry and it said when I plugged it in that I was stuck on a Dixie. I'm happy that I changed.
And so at the ending of this one right here, some of the harmonies went a little bit longer, for example. The timing is just a little bit off. Again, great vocalist, great timing, but it's not absolutely perfect. And then with Vocal Line on.
Just the other day I found my BlackBerry and it said when I plugged it in that I was stuck on a Dixie. I'm happy that I changed.
So a little bit tighter, a little bit more perfect in terms of the vocal tightness. Let's A/B this again, but back to back without any talking between. Without.
Just the other day I found my BlackBerry and it said when I plugged it in that I was stuck on a Dixie. Just the other day I found my BlackBerry and it said when I plugged it in that I was stuck on a Dixie.
So it almost sounds more powerful when the timing is very much aligned with the Vocaline Ultra. And again, this is more of a taste thing. If we're doing a pop record and we really want tight, punchy background vocals, Vocaline is a no-brainer in my opinion. Again, in the example of this song, I don't necessarily think we needed that tight of a vocal. A little bit of looseness in the background can be a little bit more lively, a little bit more laid back. But I thought that this was a great song to demonstrate on because, again, I had these 4 vocals right here and I had doubles right here of an octave up, which I could utilize to comp with, and then an octave down right here, which I could also use to comp with. So once again, it's important that we ask ourselves whether we need perfectly timed vocals or not before we get into this. And then if we do decide to alter the timing of our vocals to help improve it and better align them to a lead vocal, let's say, then we do have a few manual strategies to go about doing that. And of course, this super easy Vocaline Ultra plugin that I could not recommend enough. I'm not being sponsored by Vocaline. I purchased these plugins myself, but it has been an absolute game changer for me in terms of saving me time and effort, especially when I'm working on vocal intensive projects. And so I wanted to share that with you today. So that's what I've got for you inside of Logic Pro. All right, so those are the techniques I have for you for perfecting the timing of your vocals and other instruments within your mixes. If you do a lot of vocal production and you want professional results, I would highly recommend checking out Vocaline for yourself. It personally saves me a ton of time whenever I'm working with vocals, and I would highly recommend it. If you'd like to learn more about mixing, I do have a free mixing guidebook. It will be the first link in the description box down below. You can click on that, sign up to my newsletter, and I'll send it to you right away. And if you'd like more information on music production and mixing from me here on YouTube, I would invite you to hit that subscribe button and to check out one of these videos in the top left or right corner. So I appreciate you being here, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.